It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a Tuesday evening here on ZiFM Stereo. In fact, it's a Tuesday evening all over the world at some point. And so we're glad to have you on ZiFM Sport on your favorite station, ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. The team is here: Mike Madoda, Chris Midzi, Sean Tafirinika, our producer, and my name is Barry Manandi. On the home front today, we promised you yesterday that we'll be talking about the Zimbabwe national cricket team, the Chevrons. Well, their bowling coach, Douglas Hondo, has warned his side not to write off Afghanistan despite winning the first test by 10 wickets inside 2 days as the two nations prepare for the second and final test, which begins tomorrow at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi, UAE. We'll get the thoughts of the ZiFM Sports team on that second test and the chances of the Chevrons of sealing the series 2-0. Also, we'll hear from Dirk Viljoen. He's got some interesting thoughts on that match. In international sports news, being a Tuesday, we have our staple, the Formula One report, proudly brought to you by Zamoko, where Aston Martin Sebastian Vettel says he is, quote, at peace with himself over his final Ferrari season, but doesn't believe he'll be under any less pressure at his new Formula One team. Also a staple on the show every day of the week is Around the World in 60, and this evening we'll take off in Serbia, where Novak Djokovic, Nole, says it has taken a lot of blood, sweat and tears to break Roger Federer's record of 310 weeks ranked as world number one. In India, cricket chief Sourav Ganguly has said that the World Test Championship final between India and New Zealand in June has been moved from Lords to Southampton because of the coronavirus pandemic, and will touch down in the United States, where Brooklyn Nets star James Harden, the Beard, has welcomed the addition of Blake Griffin to the team after he completed a contract buyout with the Detroit Pistons.
It's Top Hit Tuesday, so you can expect a chart topper right in the middle of the show. And then we'll get into the beautiful game, beginning with our Africa report, where South African club Mamelodi Sundowns ended TP Mazembe's 74-match unbeaten home record in African competitions with a 2-1 victory in the CAF Champions League over the weekend. Being a Tuesday, we'll dip into France, where Warriors star Tino Kadewere, who is on his longest spell without a goal since joining Olympique Lyon, suffered a muscle strain and could be out of action for a couple of weeks. We'll also have updates from Serie A and the Premier League before we preview the UEFA Champions League second leg action tonight, where Juventus and Porto resume their battle for a quarter-final place, while Borussia Dortmund hosts Sevilla at the Westfalenstadion.
It's going to be a good one, so our power play sets the tone. We call upon Black Coffee. This one's featuring Cassie. It's called Time.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Why don't you follow the show on social media at ZiFM Sport? The great thing about that is that we can carry on the conversations that we start here on air, and also you can catch up with back issues of the show on our YouTube channel. It is at ZiFM Sport. The entire team is also on social media at Mike Madoda, at Chris Midzi, at Sean Tafirinika, and at Barry Manandi if you want to get in touch with me. We promised you that we'll be doing a second test preview of the Chevrons, who are in action against Afghanistan, and as previously advertised, we deliver. Zimbabwe national cricket team bowling coach Douglas Hondo has warned his side not to write off Afghanistan despite winning the first test by 10 wickets inside 2 days as the two nations prepare for the second and final test, which begins tomorrow at the Sheikh Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi. Despite the ruthless manner in which they blew away their opponents in the first match, Hondo insisted that Afghanistan are still capable of coming with all guns blazing in the remaining test. Earlier today, we caught up with cricket pundit and former Zimbabwe test player Dirk Viljoen, who says he expects the Chevrons to be feeling positive ahead of the second test. Let's hear from him.
What a great victory for Zimbabwe in that first test. I don't think that Zimbabwe's ever achieved a 10-wicket victory, and it was extremely comprehensive. As we look forward to the second test, I think that Zimbabwe just need to be aware that I have no doubt Afghanistan would have done their homework and they'll be a slightly different team. If Zimbabwe continue to play like they did, there's no reason why they can't do it again. The key is going to be picking up 20 wickets, and that's what they did. To bowl a team out twice is how you win test matches. If you're going to be overcritical, maybe one area that Zimbabwe can improve on a wicket that I watched Zimbabwe bat, it didn't look like there were too many gremlins in that wicket. And maybe if you are going to be overcritical, and like I said, take nothing away from a fantastic victory, is to ensure that they bat deep the first time. On subcontinent wickets, you don't really want to be batting on there twice because the wickets get worse, and we've seen that in the India-England series. And when you bat badly or don't get enough runs in the first innings, it just puts you behind the 8 ball. So we do look forward to it. I expect and would expect that Zimbabwe are feeling positive that they can win the second one and win the series, and that would be a great result, and there should be no reason why they don't. If they play like they did in the first test and just that one area, bat a little bit longer and make sure that you make that first innings count, hopefully Zimbabwe can take a 2-0 victory in the series.
The thoughts there of Dirk Viljoen, who says that perhaps the only detraction was applying the basics. And that sounds very familiar, Mike. You said a similar thing about Zimbabwe's application, particularly in the batting performance.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. Dirk Viljoen pointing to the fact that on the subcontinent and indeed in the United Arab Emirates, try and make sure that you bat deep, especially in the first innings, because we know that the pitch or the wicket is going to disintegrate days 3, 4, 5. Batting can be very difficult, so you try and get a score that will minimize the amount of time that you have to spend out in the middle in your second innings, and that's what Zimbabwe has got to look forward to doing. And they can only do that if the top order fires. In the first test match, we saw our top 4, 5 batsmen not really give it a go apart from captain Sean Williams, who came in to bat at number 4. So we need a lot more performances at the top of the order if we're going to get that score, which is around the 400 mark, 350 mark, that will put pressure on Afghanistan. The other thing as well that Dirk Viljoen talks about, and he agrees with Dougie Hondo, is that we can't afford to write off Afghanistan. They're gonna have done their homework on the Chevrons. They're gonna try and come out all guns blazing in this particular game. They're going to try and rectify some of the mistakes, some of the basic mistakes that they made, especially with the bat in this particular test match. So Zimbabwe will still need to play well to get over the line. Remember, they welcome Rashid Khan back into the starting 11.
Yeah, and that will be a significant fillip for Afghanistan, in the sense that he is a significant player in their entire squad. So that will be one to watch out for. And if we're talking about individuals, Chris, you got to say to yourself that the Zimbabwe coaching staff will be asking Blessing Muzarabani, Victor Nyauchi and Donald Tiripano to rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat, because I think our bowlers had a fantastic time out. Where we need to improve, like Mike mentioned, is obviously our batting. That top order needs to improve. But when it comes to our bowlers, our three fast bowlers took 16 wickets among themselves in the first test, and I think because of that, we're able to see that our bowling is in fact in order. What needs to improve is our batting, and look, we can, I think, maybe point to the fact that a couple of our steady batsmen, our more experienced on the team, Brendan Taylor, Craig Irvine, not with them at the moment, and so we may have missed out on that. But we do have players who are capable of stepping in, and that's what we need to see, especially from our young players having their first time out. We need them to step up.
You know, Barry, the other thing that Zimbabwe's got to do is to show world cricket that they didn't fluke or catch the Afghanistan team cold in the first test match. So we need to be able to repeat performances. We need to not necessarily beat them by 10 wickets and do it inside 2 days, but we've got to be able to put in strong performances back to back, especially against teams like Afghanistan. That way, the rest of the world starts taking notice, and people are able to note the development of Zimbabwe cricket. It can't just be that we beat Afghanistan and then we lose the next game. It shouldn't be like that. We really need to put in a performance in the second test match.
I even listening to Chris, and I'm staying with you, Mike, even listening to Chris, we seem to be thinking, okay, our frontline seam bowlers did well in that first game. They took wickets with regularity. We managed to get the 20 wickets to get Afghanistan out and ultimately win the test match. But I'm afraid to be assuming that it's going to be quite as simple. We don't have a specialist spin bowler on the squad. It's just been justified in the first test. Should we be perhaps a little bit more cautious? Like you said, this is a team that's likely to do its homework. Should be a bit more careful about certainly our attack getting the breakthroughs that it did.
I think, Barry, the selectors are looking at Sean Williams. He can do a job with the ball as far as the spin bowling is concerned. They're also looking at Sikandar Raza and think that with those two in the side, they'll be able to carry the spin bowling duties for Zimbabwe on that particular deck. And so I think that's the thinking. They're thinking more about balancing the team to make sure that they achieve the right balance throughout the team. That is from number 1 through to number 11. So I wouldn't be too concerned with the lack of a specialist spinner. But I am going to go with the fact that, Sean Williams and the likes of Sikandar Raza and even Ryan Burl as well. We saw Burl turn his arm over in that first test match, and he actually bowled a ripper in one of the wickets that he got. So I'm just thinking that that's their thinking, that they've got enough in this team to actually get a victory for Zimbabwe. But there's a lot at stake for Zimbabwe, Barry. This could be, I think it'll only be... what is it? We've only won 6 test series since we won test status back in 1992. And oddly enough, a bit of a quirky stat here. We've only won against Asian teams. We've beaten India before, Pakistan and Bangladesh. And so if we beat Afghanistan, they'll become the 4th team that we have beaten. And of course, our last test series victory was way back in 2011. So this will be our first test series victory in a decade. So there's a lot riding on us managing to get a victory or even a draw to make sure we secure the series.
And getting the victory, almightily important for Zimbabwe, as you heard from Mike, from Chris, and of course from Dirk Viljoen. We need 20 wickets to win this test match. That means that our bowlers have to be at it. And let's hear from one of our bowlers, one of our mainline bowlers, Blessing Muzarabani. The big man spoke to us earlier.
Yes, it feels good, really, to be leading the attack. But it's a team game, so tomorrow we're looking forward to it. We're just gonna be patient. It's not gonna be easy like last game, but we're just gonna try and just play, take it easy, and play hard. We really need to win the series. That will help us a lot, give us confidence. There's a lot of guys who are just coming in to set up, so that will really help their confidence and everything. So we really want to win. So we're going to go and do our best to try to win the game, because that's what we always wanted to do. So we're looking forward to that.
In his own words there, Blessing Muzarabani. Chris, Blessing Muzarabani excites me, and he excites me probably about the same as Wesley Madivere excites Mike Madoda. Because Blessing Muzarabani is a throwback. He's your typical tall, rangy, fast bowler who can bring the ball down at the rate of knots and take good wickets. Yes, his development hasn't been as great as it could be, but we know that's an infrastructure issue here. But certainly an exciting bowler.
An exciting bowler, and one who always turns up. I think what I've come to notice and like about Blessing Muzarabani is that he's consistent. He consistently does well for the country, and he needs to continue to do that, because essentially what we're holding on to at the moment, if our batting doesn't necessarily improve going into this next test, if we don't do as well as we would want to with the bat, what we're holding on to is our bowling, and Blessing Zarabani is definitely a stalwart in terms of our bowlers. So it's just unfortunate in terms of his development, like you mentioned, but I think just having that little bit of time out when he did leave them, on his return, he's come back a much better, much more consistent bowler.
He certainly has. Mike, we've spoken about Zimbabwe a lot, and rightfully so. We are Zimbabwean, but we must speak about the opponent. And you mentioned Rashid Khan earlier. He's got a great record in T20 internationals and in white ball cricket. Do you think he can extrapolate that to the red ball?
Yeah, I think he's got the ability, Barry. He's got the ability, but whether his presence alone can swing this match decisively for Afghanistan, I don't think so. I think he's going to certainly put a lot of pressure on Zimbabwe. Remember, Test cricket, Barry, is about hunting in packs. So you can't have just one bowler who's world class and doing the business from one end. You've got to have the support acts, the bowlers that come in and complement him, because he can't bowl from ball one until the very end. He's going to have to take a breather now and again. And of course, Zimbabwe, I think, will be very circumspect when they face him. They'll be very cautious because he's got that wicket-taking delivery, because he's an attacking bowler. That's the thing about Rashid Khan. You mentioned the fact that he's done it in white ball cricket, and that's what gives him that sense of attack, as it were, where he wants to get you out. He's not a defensive bowler. He's not trying to limit your scoring. He's trying to get you out. So that makes him a very dangerous bowler, because he's a strike bowler, as it were. I know we normally, of course, ascribe strike to your paceman, but Rashid Khan does play that role. He's a wicket-taking bowler. And so Zimbabwe, I think, will need to be cautious against him and then cash in when they face the other bowlers, because I don't think him alone can swing this test match in Afghanistan's favor.
Certainly, and testament to that is the fact that he became Afghanistan's first IPL millionaire when Sunrisers Hyderabad used their right to match card for him in January 2018 auction. So he is a man who is in demand, and in fact he's called the busiest T20 cricketer in the world, because he's practically played in every major league that there is, and there would be a reason why they look out for him. Overall, in 249 games, Khan has 344 wickets. Mike says that he's a strike bowler. That's exactly what he is, because that record is the 7th highest in the world. We'll need to be careful, and we'll need to have answers when he comes down the track. That's the match that's starting tomorrow. A series victory, sorely in need. Zimbabwe sorely in need of a series victory, and to do that we need to win this match. Hopefully we can do the business. So watch it on ZBC TV. They'll be bringing us all the action out of Abu Dhabi.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
Right, let's give you a local sports news roundup, starting with rugby, where Sables tight head prop Farai Mudariki has joined USON Nevers in the French Pro 2 League for the 2021 season. The Zimbabwe prop arrived at Nevers after he parted ways with English Premiership side Worcester Warriors at the end of his contract in November last year. Mudariki has been with English side since 2018 after he joined them from French club Tabes on the recommendation of former Warriors lock James Percival. The Zimbabwe Rugby Union, the ZRU, congratulated Mudariki for his move, and they say they are hopeful that he will do well as he is familiar with the French league. In athletics news, the Bulawayo Athletics Board has started preparations to host the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe Interprovincial Championships at the end of this month. The association has tentatively set the 27th of March as the date for the meet at White City Stadium in Bulawayo. The chairperson of BAB, Watson Madanyika, said athletes are looking forward to the competition, as this will be the first event of the year. Let's wrap it up with football news, where the Warriors technical team has continued to put on a brave face despite facing a possibility of missing most of its Europe-based stars for 2 decisive Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers later this month. The general manager of the Warriors, Wellington Mpandare, says that he's confident Zimbabwe stand a chance of grinding out good results even without the Europe-based contingent. The Warriors travel to Botswana on the 25th of March for the penultimate Group H qualifier before concluding the qualification campaign with the home match against the Chipolopolo of Zambia 4 days later. Barry, we've already heard an announcement from South America saying that they've cancelled their qualifiers as a result of the pandemic and some of the restrictions that could be placed on their players when they return to their clubs in Europe. Should CAF be following suit and doing the same?
I think so. It should certainly be a consideration on the basis that we're at the business end of the qualifiers. We're also at the business end of the leagues in Europe. So it's an important time for everyone involved in the sport. And I think that there should be due care and attention made to that and not prejudice clubs, neither prejudice countries.
And Chris, this is just a simple matter of rescheduling. Surely it's just a week later on in the year.
It is a matter of rescheduling and playing these qualifiers at a time that's, I think, more suited to both the clubs and the countries. I think also an important thing to take a look at is in terms of vaccinations. There are vaccination rollouts happening, and a little bit later on, it might be easier in terms of travel for the players. They'll have their travel certificates after their vaccinations, so that'll be a lot better. So I think it's more an issue of being flexible now in this coronavirus period, and decision-making bodies taking into account that they need to be able to shift and pivot as and when necessary.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One report.
Today's Formula One report is out of the Aston Martin stable, where their marquee driver Sebastian Vettel says he's at peace with himself over his final Ferrari season, but doesn't believe he'll be under any less pressure at his new Formula One team. Speaking at the presentation of his new 2021 car, the Aston Martin AMR21, Vettel candidly reflected on how unhappy he was with his own performance, but stressed he was at peace with himself about how his last season with the Scuderia played out. Let's hear from Vettel, who's also optimistic about the potential at Aston Martin.
Well, potential. I think the team has, always been very strong in the past with limited resources, let's say. Now, obviously, the regulations and Formula One is changing a little bit. And, with the new launch of Aston Martin coming back to Formula One, sort of relaunching the team, a lot of people joining, a lot of talented people coming together. It's, I think, an honor to be part of this unique brand coming back. So we will give it everything that we have.
Z.
Well, Chris, Vettel was reportedly informed that his contract wouldn't be renewed at Ferrari, and he drove in that final season like a man who knew that the noose was around his neck.
Yeah, pretty much. He had a bit of a lame duck year. He struggled to perform throughout the season, and the vehicle itself also didn't suit his driving style. So he ended up even being comfortably beaten by his teammate Charles Leclerc. So it was a strange season for him, not at his best at all, and that vehicle not helping him in the situation.
And of course, going back to that season, Vettel was out-qualified by Charles Leclerc, the younger, more inexperienced driver, by 13-4, and could only score 33 points compared to 98 for Leclerc, which included a solitary podium in Turkey. He has the opportunity, Barry, to redeem himself at Aston Martin. Have they put together a project that could see Sebastian Vettel, first of all, have competitive races, and then secondly, maybe get podium finishes? What do you think?
Podium finishes might be optimistic. I think at this stage they just need to look that they continue to, they at least secure their midfield position on the grid to make sure that they're not one of the back markers, and then try to see if they can look upwards, up the table, the constructors table firstly, and then obviously for the driver. Sebastian Vettel himself, he's still a good driver. That's never going to change. But it's getting the car that can compete with the likes of your Mercedes, Red Bull, possibly even Ferrari, and I don't think Aston Martin in their return to Formula One will be able to get that even with this AMR 21, but certainly midfield is a good target for them.
Don't expect anything big from Aston Martin. That is the advice coming out of Barry Manandi. Mid-table finish. If they were a football team, they'll be Everton or Wolves. And that's your best bet for season 2021.
Hi, I'm Trevor Nyakani, the Blue Bulls and Springbok prop. And now you're listening to ZiFM Sports.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Serbia, where Novak Djokovic says it has taken a lot of blood, sweat and tears to break Roger Federer's record of 310 weeks ranked as world number one. The Serb set the record yesterday for most weeks at number one in the 48-year history of the ATP rankings. Djokovic, whose longest continuous run at the top was 122 weeks between July 2014 and November 2016, paid tribute to Federer, who is competing at this week's Qatar Open, his first tournament since the Australian Open in 2020. We'll head over to India, where cricket chief Sourav Ganguly has said that the World Test Championship final between India and New Zealand in June has been moved from Lord's to Southampton because of the coronavirus pandemic. The inaugural championships final had long been planned for Lord's, known as the home of cricket, in London. But Ganguly told Indian media that Southampton's Aegis Bowl was preferred because the venue has a built-in hotel. The date of the final has not yet been announced. And we'll touch down in the United States, where Brooklyn Nets star James Harden has welcomed the addition of Blake Griffin to their team after he completed a contract buyout with the Detroit Pistons. The 2018 MVP claimed that Griffin's signing with the Nets further amplified his desire to win and contribute to a championship instead of chasing paychecks at this stage of his career.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. The beating drum. The roaring fans. Take a ride on the wild side with the Africa Report on ZiFM Sport.
All right, as we promised at the top of the show, we've got our African roundup, and we start with the big news that South African club Mamelodi Sundowns ended TP Mazembe's 74-match unbeaten home record in African competitions with a 2-1 CAF Champions League victory on Saturday. Now, goals from Peter Shalulile and Lyle Lakay saw the Brazilians move to 9 points at the top of Group B after match day 3. If anything, Michael, confirms that Mamelodi Sundowns is now an African powerhouse. It has to be. Not only snapping this huge record that TP Mazembe had, but also going to the DRC and getting a victory against any side is tough, least of all TP Mazembe.
Yeah, this has got to be arguably, Barry, I think right up there with that 5-0 mauling of Al Ahly at the Lucas Masterpieces Maripe Stadium about 3 years ago. This has got to be up there as one of the results of the decade in the CAF Champions League. That unbeaten run by TP Mazembe. And we all know how difficult it is in Lubumbashi, both on and off the field. So impressive from Sundowns. They've come of age, and it also puts paid to the critics who said that the three wise men wouldn't be able to work together and pull it off. They're doing a cracking job, Barry, both in the DStv Premiership and in the CAF Champions League.
Yeah, because they're on top of the DStv Premiership, aren't they, Chris? And the coach by committee has been vindicated with Mangoba Mniti, Rulani Mukwena, and of course the great Steve Kompela working very well together and getting the results that they ought to. They're now possibly one result away from qualifying for the knockout stages of the Champions League, which is becoming a home for the Brazilians.
Yeah, it's becoming a home for the Brazilians, and I think having those three coaches, like Mike said, there was a lot of critique that was flying around initially to say, will they be able to work together? It's not possible to have these three leading the team. But as we can see, the results are consistent, and I think it's also a testament to the fact that when Pitso Mosimane was there was a system that was at Mamelodi Sundowns, and as a result, you've got his assistants who've come in now, and they're continuing a system. Yeah, they run results from the knockouts, and it's testament to the fact that there's a system working at Mamelodi Sundowns. One would expect, first of all, like Mike mentioned, that having 3 coaches working together might be problematic, but as we can see, it's not problematic. They're getting the results, and also Pitso Mosimane leaving may have created a bit of a shake-up at the club. It hasn't in terms of the coaching, because as we can see with that consistent run of results, they are 1 result away from the knockout stages. So it's the continuation of a system, and it just shows the maturity of a club like Mamelodi Sundowns and where they are in African football at the moment.
Well, Sundowns impressive, Barry, but the other side that's really caught my eye in this edition of the CAF Champions League is Tanzanian side Simba Sports Club, the victors over FC Platinum. I mean, 3 matches in, they're sitting proudly on top of Group A, very difficult Group A, which has got AS Vita Club of the DRC. They've got Al Ahly, the defending champions, managed by Pitso Mosimane and El Merrick. A very difficult group, this one, the group of death, arguably, in the CAF Champions League, and yet they're undefeated. 2 wins, 1 draw. They got 7 points, and they're looking like they can actually push for that place in the knockout stages.
And to put it into starker contrast, Mike, they have got wins against AS Vita Club, against Al Ahly, and they've recently drawn with Al Merrick this past weekend, 0-0. Simba Sports Club sitting on top with 7 points, and then in the other teams in that Group A, Al Ahly and AS Vita Club also drawing their match 2-2 in Group A. Let's give you a run of the standings. Group B, like we said earlier, Mamelodi Sundowns 2-1 victors over TP Mazembe, while Belouizdad and Al Hilal drew 1 apiece, meaning that Sundowns is sitting on 9 points. In truth, have already qualified for the knockout stages, but just for football parlance, we'll say that they're 1 result away. Let's jump to a quick update on the CAF elections, where the Court of Arbitration for Sport has reduced the sentence of former CAF President Ahmad to 2 years. Ahmad was handed a 5-year ban from all football-related activities after being found guilty of misusing CAF's finances for his own benefit. Now, in their investigations, FIFA found many CAF-related governance issues, such as the organization and financing of an Umrah pilgrimage to Mecca, his involvement in CAF's dealings with the sports equipment company Tactical Steel, among other activities. So his sentence commuted from 5 years to 2.
Big game in Italy last night, and Internazionale coach Antonio Conte is refusing to get carried away about his side's Serie A title prospects, despite that 1-0 win over Atalanta that restored Inter's 6-point buffer at the top. Milan Skriniar scored the lone goal of the game after a 54th minute corner, as Inter responded after their closest competitors Milan and Juventus both won earlier in the weekend. Listen, lots of people have repeatedly, Chris, questioned Inter Milan's character, their fortitude, their ability to get over the line. They can't carry on using that now against Inter, because this side keeps responding when it needs to respond, and they're showing the character needed to get over the line.
Yeah, they're showing the character needed to get over the line consistently. And I think that's what's critical, especially in Serie A. If you're going to be able to win the league, then you need to be consistent. You need to consistently pick up the points. And I think this team has managed to do that. I think the naysayers at this point are maybe just some Juventus fans, but everyone else, I think, will be able to recognize the fact that this team is full of character.
And Antonio Conte has found that sweet spot, Barry. You always like talking about the sweet spot in sport, and he's found it. You know, we saw it with Chelsea about 5 years ago when he managed the Stamford Bridge outfit, where he had that back three, he had the wing backs, he had the 2 holding midfielders, the attacking midfielder, and the very fast 2-pronged strike force up top. He's found that sweet spot with the Inter, hasn't he?
He certainly has. And in truth, we can now talk about an Antonio Conte way of playing. And we can see it in this Inter side. It looks that way. He's playing. And if we were to place 2 videos side by side of the in Antonio Conte Chelsea side and the Antonio Conte Inter side, there'll be minor differences, but in truth, it's the same pattern, the same structure, the same system. So that's Antonio Conte to a T. And look at where he's sitting, on top of the tree.
On top of the tree, on the back of 7 wins in a row, and it's taken Inter a step closer to a first Serie A title in 11 years. They've got 62 points, 6 clear of rivals AC Milan in second, and 10 ahead of third-placed champions Juventus. Atalanta, as a result of that defeat, they slipped to 5th behind AS Roma, the Giallorossi, who sit in 4th.
It's the Tuesday, so we take you into France, where Warrior star Tino Kadewere, who's on his longest spell without a goal since joining Olympique Lyon, suffered a muscle strain, a development which could potentially see him out of action for a couple of weeks. Kadewere featured in the last 32 minutes of his club's marginal 1-0 victory away at Rennes last week, where he may have picked up the knock. Mike, we've seen a dip in form in terms of Tino Kadewere. It's a lot of pressure, obviously, being in that position that he has to consistently score goals, but added to that is that he now faces competition from on loan striker Islam Slimani.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a good time for you to sort of like lose your form, because this is the business end of the season. And the coach or the manager will go with players that he knows will perform in the big games. They're in with a chance of not just qualifying for the Champions League, but an outside chance of actually pipping PSG to the title in France. So he's going to have to get his game back together again, because of late he just hasn't delivered. I think he's got only 2 goals in his last 11 appearances for Lyon, and for a side that's trying to challenge in France for honours and qualifying for the money-making Champions League. That's form that's simply not good enough. And of course, now you mentioned Islam Slimani. He's there hovering now. If he starts scoring, if he starts performing, he could be the player that the manager leans on.
Fingers crossed Tino Kadewere is able to pick up his form before any major decisions are made as we reach the end of the season. But Marshal Munetsi, another player out in France, he came on a second half substitute in Stade de Reims' 2-1 win against Nantes. Your French Ligue 1 looks like this. Lille sitting at the top with 62 points. Paris Saint-Germain 60 points in second. Lyon is in third with 59, and AS Monaco in fourth with 55 points.
Hi, my name is Ovidi Karuru, Zimbabwean player. You are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z.
Champions League action returns tonight, and Juventus has a job to do, and Andrea Pirlo wants his side to be clever and patient as they seek to overcome a slender 2-1 deficit against Porto and claim a place in the Champions League quarter-finals. Mehdi Terami and Moussa Marega caught Juve cold at the start of each half at the Estadio do Dragao last month. Let's hear from Juventus defender Leonardo Bonucci, who spoke about how Cristiano Ronaldo is fired up for this clash.
Cristiano è sempre carico quando si avvicinano queste partite.
Cristiano Ronaldo is always excited before these kinds of games. He said in an interview he would play only Champions League games if he could. So we can imagine the energy he has heading into today's game. We are going to play with the Juventus spirit. We are keen to win the game whilst respecting Porto. We know, as we saw in our last few games, we can obtain great results with our fighting spirit, and we will give everything.
Mike, I can understand why Leonardo Bonucci speaks of Cristiano Ronaldo. He's obviously a star player that has delivered for Juventus on countless occasions. But is he the solution as well as the problem, in the sense that there's too much of a focus on him?
Yeah, Barry, I can understand where that argument would come from because, it's almost as if Juventus plays for Cristiano Ronaldo now in terms of the way that the attack is set up. But that's also because they want to take advantage of his ruthless nature in front of goal. They know that the man, if he gets a chance, he'll likely cash in and get the goals that Juventus would need. But the big criticism about Cristiano Ronaldo at Juventus is that in Europe, the team has gone backwards. And even in Serie A, what used to be comfortable title charges they're now having to grind their way to the trophy at the end of the season. So he's going to have to do something special against a very well-disciplined Porto side. We saw them defend very well in that game, and they were actually very unlucky to concede versus Juventus. They should have been carrying a comfortable 2-0 advantage into Turin for this return leg. So it's not going to be easy, but Juventus know that they have got the experience and the firepower to turn this result around.
Yeah, they do have the experience. Unfortunately, missing the services of Paulo Dybala. He remains injured. Rodrigo Betancourt, he's tested positive for COVID-19, and versatile defender Danilo, who even featured in midfield last time out, is suspended. So there is quite a bit of work to do. It is a team sport, and the team is going to have to do the business for Juventus. The team that is leading is Porto. Let's get the pre-match thoughts of Porto manager Sergio Conceição.
Nós em casa ou fora, nós preparamos os jogos de uma forma
No
igual.
matter if we play home or away, the preparation is always the same. It is true that our last 2 games were not great. We are talking about the games against Braga and Sporting. They didn't go as we would have liked, but it doesn't mean that we feel more comfortable to play away. We are a big club. A home match would also be different with fans. I was just talking about the passion of our supporters. But for us, when it comes to the build-up of a game, it's exactly the same, whether we play home or away.
Many pundits thought that Porto would be swatted aside and Juventus would be far and away very comfortable going into the second leg of this tie. It's not that way, because Porto came at Juventus and came with interest. So they'll need to do the same if they're to get through over a Juventus side that will be motivated to turn this around.
Yes, this is going to be a highly, highly motivated Juventus side. They don't have a clean hold on the domestic league, so they need to be able to get something and get some good results in the Champions League. But Porto themselves haven't had a fantastic run in terms of their domestic league, and also they were stunned in the second leg of their cup final last Wednesday. So this is a team that's also eager and hungry for a win. They need that morale boost, and they'll be able to go into this confidently because of last time out, like Mike said, they defended incredibly well, and they found how to play against Juventus. They did it perfectly. If they're able to do the same thing again, I think they're going to be able to get this result and make it to the last 8.
Juventus versus Porto, that's one fixture tonight. There is another, again, on a knife edge. Sevilla versus Borussia Dortmund. Now, Sevilla coach Julen Lopetegui says his side is still alive and hope to pull off a comeback in the Champions League last 16 tie with Borussia Dortmund. Sevilla lost the first leg at home 3-2 last month and could hardly have had a worse run of results heading into tonight's return leg at the Westfalen Stadion. Borussia Dortmund will be licking their chops with a home tie coming up in this home leg coming up in this tie, and Sevilla themselves will have a mountain to climb, having conceded 3 goals at home. This is a tough one, eh?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Sevilla will have to try and make it into a high-scoring affair. So it's going to have to be a ding-dong affair. Why? Because Dortmund hold all the cards as far as the away goals are concerned. And what Sevilla has got to do is restore parity as far as that equation is concerned. So they've got to at least score 3 goals on the night to make sure that they do the job over Borussia Dortmund. The other equation would be to score 2 and keep Dortmund scoreless. But with the talents of Haaland and players like that, we know that Borussia Dortmund are probably going to score a goal or 2. So I can't see past Dortmund, to be honest. I think Sevilla shot themselves in the foot when they lost the first leg and conceded 3 goals at home.
It's going to be a tough one, that, and I can't see Sevilla coming back into it. A place in the last 8 is what's on offer. Who will be there when the final shake-up happens? Tonight's fixtures, Juventus versus Porto, and it is Borussia Dortmund who host Sevilla. Dortmund, as Mike says, with all the cards. So our cards are spent, so we have to go. We'll be back tomorrow for Wacky Wednesday. Don't miss it. 5 after 6 here on ZiFM Stereo. For now, may God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.